Hey friends, welcome back to Heretical Hippies, where Anna and Carrie Jo wander back into the wreckage of their deconstruction to see if they can offer hope to anyone else who might be climbing out of the dust and ashes of their faith. Buckle up, it's about to get real.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Heretical Hippies. We are talking about our year in review with Carrie Jo. How you doing today?
Hey girl, I'm good. How are you?
Awesome. Thanks.
Oh, your dog is
And my
great
dog said
too.
hi
I love
too. Isn't
that.
that sweet? Little shit. So let's talk about what we learned this year. This has been a fun for me. Going back over the episodes, kind of looking through and reminiscing about what we did. Yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts on what you learned as you did the same.
Yeah, you want me to start?
Go for it.
Okay. Um, I learned that growth it coincides with pain. And I
Mm,
think it probably has always been a part of my life experience, but I've had so many opportunities for growth this year that I was able to recognize the pattern more easily. And
that
while
is very true.
while I absolutely hate that that's fact, I think at least now that I can state that and know that moving forward, it will be helpful when I am going through something painful because that does mean you're growing. Um, and with growth comes freedom. So like you get growth. Okay, growth precipitates pain and freedom. So I have to remember there's
Hmm.
two sides to the coin. So
Yeah.
that's one thing that I learned this year.
Yeah, I had a similar thought that our spiritual journeys are shaped by the good and the bad experiences. And the growth in general is precipitated by pain a lot of times. And so, yeah, unlearning what we've been unlearning from our faith journey and our upbringing, um, it's not always fun.
In
It's
general,
not
it's not
always
fun, I would
easy.
say. Fucking
Yeah. I mean, I think that there are aspects of it that, you get to meet new people and you get to have new conversations and you get to explore new freedoms and things of that nature that can make the unlearning open up our world so
hmm
much more, right? That part of it. But it's very challenging to let go of what we thought was real and what we thought was true. And it's very challenging to admit that you're wrong.
Yeah. Or yeah, the way you previously experienced things, it's now been kind of replaced by a new experience teaching you something beyond that. And that
Mm.
again is the growth. But
Right.
yeah, it's a humbling thing, right? To recognize, oh, what I was believing or how I was operating in a certain scenario, that no longer serves me. And so to let that go and be like, oh, okay, I've been doing it that way for X number of years. And that sucks that was kind of not right. Not right
Yeah.
for, let me rephrase that. Not that it wasn't right, but maybe that it wasn't the best possible option. But that was all that you
Hmm.
were aware of at the time.
Right.
That's a hard thing to do for me to realize when I look back on ways that I used to view things or ways that I would have responded to a certain stimulus. I recognize, oh, that was like really juvenile or that was so unenlightened. I have to remind myself I only had so much information. I was working out of the best information I had at the time. So I can't be mad at myself, my former self for that. Like I was doing my best. So
Sure.
yeah, and I guess that
Yeah.
that brings me to another thing I've learned is just how to be more patient and gracious with myself as I grow.
Yeah.
And that's
No,
easier
that's a
said
good
than
one.
done too.
Yeah, we did the best we could with what we had at the time, and then we shifted accordingly. And um, we talked about this before we started recording today, is just when you really allow yourself the space to really not have to figure it all out. Like it's you I think that's a knee-jerk reaction when you're coming out of a belief system, is to go, okay, well then what's next?
Mhm.
You want to immediately fix it because you were comfortable in where you were and now you've are in this uncomfortable, it's really uncomfortable place to be, to come out. And so this we're kind of shifting from what has the podcast taught us to what is our process of deconstruction taught us. But
Well, I mean, that's
they're
the
kind of
nature of the
one and the
podcast.
same.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, they're kind of one and the same. And but I noticed, I guess, what, and sharing all this, what we're talking about is we've seen not just that we've been through that, but we've seen other people go through that same journey of and talked with other people, like even people that have reached out and have heard the podcast and listened to our stories and the stories that we share. Is that, oh yeah, I experienced the same thing. You know, I look back through a lot of the messages that I received from friends and that have listened to the podcast, and they said the same things, like, oh, that reminded me of X, Y, and Z, you know, or oh my gosh, yeah, I hadn't heard it that way, but it's so true. Those are the kinds of responses that I got from people, and it's really encouraging to be able to know that this is kind of a shift in culture across the world, really.
Hmm.
I think this is a shift happening as we enter the information age, and the internet has allowed for people to be better educated, and people are shifting, the mindsets are shifting.
Yeah. Yeah. You mentioned something about going through text or messages, whatever, from people who are listening and had a response. That was actually another thing that I learned that was on my list, that people are listening and it is making a difference in their lives. And I'll give a really like amazing example. So this was my most recent interaction with somebody who was basically responding to something in the podcast. So she's somebody that I served with on the missionary field. Missionary field. What the hell? The mission field. Kind of hilarious. So I guess I've been out of the Christian circle long enough. That's fun. Um, so we served together in Nigeria, and she has gone through her own deconstruction process, and we are definitely not in the same place, you know, spiritually, or things that we are believing or wondering about and things like that. But she reached out wondering how how I might engage in a Christian environment having gone through what I've gone through. You know, like
Huh.
if I were to return to a Christian environment, how would that play out for me? Like basically, how would I best engage with that? And it was just fascinating because I thought, "Oh wow, I can't believe she even cares what I what I would have to say about that." But it was she didn't specifically say, it was something in one of the recent podcast episodes, end of the year, that something resonated with her, and then she reached out to ask me that, and
Hmm.
I was just so honored and so encouraged to think that somebody thinks that my journey has been valuable enough that I might be equipped with some information that I could share that might be helpful to
Mhm.
her. And that was just really cool. And plus, she's a lovely human, and it was just great to catch up with her. And yeah, just that reminder of how she felt comfortable reaching out to me. You know, I don't know that there was anyone else in her life that she would have felt comfortable asking that to. I mean, we weren't like
Hmm.
best friends or anything. So the fact that she said, "Hey, I'm going to ask Carrie Jo what she thinks," was just like really profound for me to think that,
That's
wow,
awesome.
yeah, the stuff that Anna and I are doing, it is profound. And sometimes it feels
Mhm.
so silly, you know, like you and I have fun. We laugh, we poke fun at ourselves. It's
Right.
just, but it's not a joke. It is serious, and it is helpful for people. So I love that we get to
I
have
hope so.
fun doing something that is making a difference.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I hope so. So one of the things that we talked about as is what how has our beliefs changed?
Insert long pause here.
One of the other things that we talked about sharing today was how have our beliefs changed? And when I paused, I was like, "How?" I think I want to say that differently. But once you say it one way, it's like, okay, now I'm just creating more work for Carrie Joe to edit this out. You know.
I kind of want to leave all this in. Oh, man.
How have my belief? You know, I feel like sometimes from day to day, my beliefs change,
Absolutely.
and when I, you know, I mean, I think I've experienced changes within uh, my faith, my previous faith. Um, I believe I still have faith, but my previous faith that we've referred to in the show time and time again, I evolved even within that belief system. Um, but I find myself evolving so much faster than I remember I did before.
Hmm.
Um, and even the other day, I saw a quote that I really liked that was, and maybe it's true, maybe it's not, I don't know, but it got me to thinking. Uh, a little bit of science will make you an atheist, and a lot of science will make you a believer in God.
Mm.
And I feel like in some ways I've kind of been cycling like that. Like when I think about the science that I understand, I am like, yeah, if somebody were asked me in that minute if you're an atheist, I would say yes. Not that I'm that fickle, but you know, you get the point. And
Oh, I'm that
but if
fickle.
I
I am completely resonating with what you're saying. I have a lot to add to this. Keep going.
but like, you know, if you were to ask me yesterday if I believed in God, I probably would have said yes. Like, and God meaning whatever, you know, like insert your own definition of higher power type thing. You know, what are your
Yeah,
thoughts?
it's so funny because I was actually talking to someone who is very near and dear to your heart, who shall remain nameless, um, and was telling her that on any given day, I fluctuate between being an atheist and being agnostic.
Mm,
Not agnostic atheist, but just agnostic. You know, like I'm not sure about God. Like I think there might be
mhm,
something.
mhm.
And it is a moment to moment thing for me. Like I am
Sure.
genuinely that fickle when it comes to this weird belief. Like I bounce back and forth, and it is such a strange thing, Anna, because I've thought a lot about this, and I wish I could kind of maybe not land in a place, but at least hover for a little while. I really feel like it is constantly back and forth. Yay, nay, I don't
Mhm,
know. Yay, nay, I don't know. Um,
mhm,
but I think the process of going back and forth, it does narrow down, I think, reasons for believing or reasons for not believing. I think
mm,
it narrows the possibilities rather than widens it, because that is more confusing to me. Like
mm.
everything in me wants to believe that there's some supernatural force at work. Everything
Sure.
in me. But then
Right.
immediately on the heels of that thought, I think, don't be duped. Don't do it again.
Mhm.
You know, like
Right.
it's almost like I don't want to touch it with a 10-foot pole because of how much trauma I received in the space of spirituality. And I mean religion, really. But anything labeled with spirituality to me feels like a dirty word. And part of
Mhm.
that is me just needing to work through some of the trauma. I recognize that. I'm in therapy, don't worry. We're getting there. But it's fascinating to me how much that protective barrier comes up when I'm considering there being divinity or not. Because right now, the safe place for me would be like, no, no, there
Right.
isn't anything. It's just, it is what it is. We have science to back it up. And I love that quote you shared because I've thought of
Mhm.
that so much. I'm like, but science says,
Mhm.
and that allows me to remain in that atheist camp.
Mhm.
But when I think about what we're learning in science, like trees being connected and communicating with each other via like this fungal network underground, I was like, you're fucking kidding me. Like, you cannot tell me that that's not some greater force at work, literally connecting all of us.
Right.
And I so badly want that to be the case. But then immediately, I put my toes in those waters and I'm like, nope, nope, not going there again. And so, yeah,
Yeah.
it's, oh man, that ugh. I have a lot more I could say on that, but we'll just save that for another
Mhm.
conversation. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I love that quote. Do you remember? Was it
I'll look it up.
somebody? Did
Oh,
somebody say it, or was it just like unknown?
it was a scientist actually that said it, I
Okay.
think. I'll have to look it up. I think I saved it on Pinterest or
Yeah.
something.
No, send that to me because I love that. It's very true, and I think it's part of the journey too, though. Not knowing and considering
Mhm.
all possibilities. It is possible
Yeah.
there's no God at work, and like you
Yeah.
said, however you want to define God.
Mhm.
But it is also possible that God, air quotes, is entirely just the magic that is within everything. Humans are unbelievable. We're
Mhm.
incredible specimens of evolution, to go back to science, right? The fact that we even exist is insane. And then again, like,
Yeah.
look at this network that communicates with each other in the forests. Like, that is God to me. When I see those things
Yeah.
and learn those things, that is a representation of divinity. And it's
Right.
cool that science can even label it, like it is
Yeah.
scientific and it is magic at the same time. So it's
Right.
kind of whatever filter you want to put in front of your face, I think.
Yeah. I think coming to like that, having those similar thoughts helps me also relate, still able to relate to uh, my friends who strongly believe in the God that's defined by the Bible. Um, because I think there's some similarities, there's some overlap, and I think in a lot of ways, modern Christianity is not even biblical.
Right.
If you want to define whatever biblical is,
Mm-hmm.
everybody has their own idea and their own understanding of whatever biblical is. And so, yeah, interestingly enough, when we just got back from traveling through the Southwest, the Grand Circle, Grand Canyon, Zion, and Bryce, and we were on a tour bus. It wasn't a tour bus; it was like a shuttle bus that takes people from one site to another. And my big mouth, we got into a conversation with a family that was sitting next to us, and ended up being a pretty heated discussion between Ricky and this pastor. Did not go the way I expected it to go.
Oh my gosh.
And but I was, the whole time I was thinking, like, a large part of what we bring to relationships has to do with our belief system, what we think is right and wrong. And everybody, whether you're atheist or agnostic or religious in any way, shape, or form, you believe there is a right and a wrong.
Yeah.
And you apply those quote unquote morals to your life and everyone else's life that you come in contact with. Much of the time, that will be something that comes between people,
Mm-hmm.
because you believe this is right and I don't believe this is right. Man, it gets messy really, really fast. And even just with the election that just happened and everything, it's like everybody's dividing more and more. And I wish we were trying to find more reasons to stay connected
Yeah.
rather than trying to find reasons to divide. And at that same logic, I think, is where I'm at spiritually with God. There are a lot of reasons, God, that I don't like you.
Right.
But there are also a lot of reasons that I like you. And they're all reasons that I understand in this finite existence in my little bitty mind, you know, on planet Earth, which is hurling through space at billions of miles per hour. And, that whole video of like where the video takes you out further and
Yes.
further. And then it's like you don't even see Earth anymore.
Yeah.
It's like just these dots everywhere. And it's like, and you're here worrying about bills,
Right.
and whether or not there's a God. It's like, it doesn't matter.
Right.
It doesn't matter what I think. But I'm having a really good time trying to figure it out. And when it stresses me out or makes me anxious or angry, I'm probably needing to take a break.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I learned this year with, is to just not take myself so seriously.
Yeah. That is
Or
way,
other people for that matter.
yeah, that is way easier said than done for me. I struggle with that because, like you said, each person believes what they believe is right for reasons A, B, and C, right? Because
Mhm.
of personal experiences we've had, personal traumas we've gone through. I mean, there are as many belief systems as there are humans.
Yep,
Nobody believes exactly the same. And
exactly.
that is honestly what makes humanity so amazing and beautiful, because of the
Mhm.
diversity. It'd be really
Yeah,
freaking boring if we all believed the same things. And
Yeah.
so I love your approach to the finding things in common. Like what can we discuss of commonality, but maybe we maybe we flirt with things that are different. Maybe we ask with an attitude of curiosity, genuine curiosity, not judgment or oh, I've got my response ready for that one. That is also way easier said than done, but I think if we as a people can start to look at other people that we don't agree with, that we absolutely know we disagree with, on political things or religious things or the way they parent their kids, like whatever it might be. I mean, there's so many opportunities for differences, right? What if
Yeah.
we came at it, maybe not even in true conversation with them, but in our brains? What if we like looked at it as an opportunity to take ourselves out of like kind of metaphorically out of our mind and body and try to look at it from their angle. I mean, we haven't had their experiences, right?
Yeah.
But I think it's a really gracious move on our part to try to imagine, okay, they clearly believe this or desire this or do this for a reason or reasons.
Hmm.
And I will never have the privilege or disadvantage, depending on what they've been through, of understanding, seeing their situation through their eyes.
Yeah.
So just, I guess, trusting in humankind is a real gamble when you ask me. Like, I look at some humans and I'm like, are you kidding me? But I haven't had their experiences. And
Right.
I can assume they're doing the best they can with what they have to work with at the moment.
Yeah.
Um, and man, I wish it were easier. I really do. And it takes effort. It takes concerted desire. I feel
Hmm.
like this isn't just like something that you happen upon. It takes actual effort and work to make those relationships work. I mean, it doesn't have to be a best friendship, but just even having cordial interaction with people. It's hard because,
Yeah,
yeah,
I think too. We think whether you're Christian or Muslim or Buddhist or whatever, there's like this. We all want to be purposeful. We want to be. We want to have purpose.
hmm
We want our life to have meaning. We want to influence the world around us. So our knee jerk reaction is to want to figure out. It's like something in us is just driving us to figure out how to influence the world around
I
us.
think that's ego.
Yeah,
hmm
exactly. Exactly. And so if you can remove that ego and go into a conversation with someone you can have no overlap with
hmm
other than humanity and pain and fear and natural human emotion, I think that it's probably one of the most beautiful things to me is to be able to be with someone and allow our simple humanity be enough to care.
Yeah.
I see that there's actually a really cool YouTube channel called the White Underbelly. I'll put a link on this podcast, but this guy has been interviewing people in the roughest parts of society for the last few years or many years now. I can't remember, 4, 5, 6 years, and he is so empathetic, so caring, so he's just this normal guy that has a video camera, and he's befriended some of the roughest people in our societies, and he shares their stories, and it's just beautiful.
That's
It's
awesome.
scary and horrible to watch sometimes because you this mama heart wants to rescue every single one of them, but watching him interact with them, and he even has follow-up interviews like a year later,
Oh, that's
what's going on
cool.
with them now, and a year later, what's going on with them now. It's kind of neat. um, but I think when you really shave down everything, beliefs about God, beliefs about politics, um, beliefs about right and wrong, like if you just shave it all down and just empathize with the humanity of people,
hmm
I think we would now, I think that might be something that's drastically missing in our society. Everybody has so much information. that now they're even more convinced of their
Right.
positions, right? And rarely you leave any room, wiggle room, because of that, because we're so well educated,
Right. Or we think we
on
are.
ours.
I mean, I think we
Right.
all believe we're well educated, but I think we are all operating out of blind spots as well. Every single one of
Hmm.
us.
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And you tend to fuel the belief system that you have, right? So you tend to see everything through that lens. And so you're going to try to learn as much as you can that whatever supports that, right? We get more and more entrenched in our beliefs the more we learn about them.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, man, that's a long answer to the beliefs question.
It is, but I
But
think it's valuable. It's worth having. I want to put a little asterisk on this, though. We're talking
mhm,
about this pie in the sky reality that we are hoping for, right? Like where we can all just get
sure,
along and figure out ways to get along. And that would be
right,
lovely, honestly. Not sure it's possible. It would be amazing. But I also want
right.
to kind of also give you permission as the listener, as a human, to draw boundaries in your life if there is a relationship that is not going to be fruitful in any way,
Right.
shape, or form in trying to engage either with commonalities or differences, it's okay
Mhm.
to put boundaries in place.
100%. Yeah. If you aren't getting that mutual respect,
Right.
that mutual desire to meet each other where you're at, then yeah, that's a red flag for sure.
Yeah. And I mean, I have very stark examples of both of these. Like Anna, you and I, we have very different ideologies in some spaces. And
Mhm.
we're okay with that. Like we're aware of it. We're okay with it.
Right.
Um,
Right.
we don't always avoid the topics, but we are also
Mhm.
genuinely careful, to engage with each other in such a positive and respectful way. Honestly, I think our
Right.
listeners would probably be shocked at how much we have that's different because we do have so much in common as well.
Right.
But I love that about us. And that is like a really stark, beautiful example of what that utopian, thing can look like. I think that's why you
Yeah.
and I are so hopeful and like dream about that. But I
Yeah.
also have a relationship that I recently had to just say, no, I'm done. I'm done. This is not a
Mm.
safe space. You clearly don't want to hear what I have to say. You know, they were being extremely disrespectful, antagonistic,
Mhm.
poking the bear basically. And I was just like, no, I've given so many opportunities for them to behave in a humane way, in a respectful and accepting way. And they just screwed the pooch every single time. So
Mm.
I was like, no, it's done. I had to draw that boundary. And so that is like the other example of what that might look like for you as a listener. If you're not getting respect, um, if they're not holding space for having an actual intelligible back and forth conversation on some difference that you have,
Mhm.
then some boundary needs to be drawn, whether it's we don't talk about that, we're just not going to go there, or whether
Right.
it's, this is the last straw. I've given you so many opportunities and it's clear to me, you are speaking very loud and clear. So there's a boundary, like
Mhm.
just cut it off. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I just want to give permission because I think as humans, we want connection. That's like part of what we are as a species.
Mhm.
We need connection. And so it
Yeah.
feels really wrong and against everything that, your psyche is about to cut off a relationship. But sometimes it needs to happen.
Agreed.
Yeah. It's tough,
Agreed.
but
It
that's
is.
part of life too.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Unfortunately, as we continue to, I love the word evolve because change makes it sound like you're going from one thing to another thing, you know? And it's like, no, we just evolve as people. Like we're going in different directions. We're driving in the same, sometimes you're driving next to each other and sometimes you're just driving apart,
Yeah.
and it's leaving space to go in the direction that you're going. And sometimes even the healthy relationships, like if you're going in different directions, like you create more space to go in those directions, but you can still return or you can still make space for one another.
It's amazing, honestly. Like when you talk about journey, like the driving, right? Like or looking at a path that we're walking. Um, our paths overlapped for about 4 days in the mountains
Yeah.
of Arizona. I think that's where we were. at that retreat. And then we went our own ways. And that was totally expected, right? Of everybody that was there. You're there for a singular purpose, and then you go your own way. And then little did we know we were deconstructing around the same time. I started a little bit later than you, but it's been, our paths have probably crossed a little bit in ways that we didn't realize at that time. But we were journeying similarly. And now like our paths are very adjacent because we're in each other's life and we're sharing almost everything about our lives.
Right.
Yeah, like it's just so cool that relationships can be that way. Like you can have no expectation of reconnecting with somebody, and then out of the blue it happens. You're just like so delighted that, oh my gosh, I didn't know I was missing this the whole time. Yeah, it's been really fun.
Awesome. It has. I think that's one other thing, the most important thing, honestly, that's come out of this podcast
I agree.
is our friendship.
Yeah, it's been super fun. Tons of laughter.
Oh my gosh, yes. So as I reviewed our episodes, I realized I could redo every single episode and it would be completely different.
Yes. And that's also like evidence of evolution in humans.
Right.
Like that's so amazing.
Right. Yeah.
Did you have a favorite one?
Oh, probably the afterlife ones.
Yeah, those were
really
good.
Those
were good.
They were just fun,
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoy our interviews. Those are fun too. But yeah, the first one that comes to mind is Afterlife. What about you?
I actually have two, and they're actually like for very myopic reasons, because these would never be your favorites, but they're definitely mine. So my top favorite was doing the happy fucking birthday card, because it was like so cathartic to reflect basically like a year past on something that rocked my world to the core, getting that card, and then a year later being able to like really even chuckle at it and look at how far I had come. Like it was such a cool benchmark for me, which that was just so encouraging for obvious reasons. And then my second favorite would be Steven's interview, because, like in an interview, you're asking questions of somebody that they normally wouldn't be asked. I think that's the nature of an interview, right? To like really get a little down deeper and hear more of like what's underneath there, what's in your heart. And we definitely have those conversations, but I'm not going to sit down and freaking interview him. Like,
right.
This is like so awkward, but I loved hearing him answer in real time. Just what was going on with him at that time of the interview. I mean, it's different than where he's at now, I'm sure, because like we're all changing and reconsidering things, but I just loved that. I love him so much, and it was just fun to kind of see him in like a different role and as interviewee. I don't know, like I've never seen him in that position, so that was just kind of fun. Just see him in a little different angle. Yeah.
That was a fun interview too. He's such a neat guy.
I'm biased, but yeah, I agree.
So, the most listened to episode is the interview with you, or your story.
No.
Yeah.
I'm genuinely shocked by that.
Yeah.
I think, okay, there's a lot of reasons I think for that. One, it was the first one. It was the first one.
That's true.
Maybe that's why we don't have as many listeners now.
No.
Maybe.
Still have a lot of really good. I mean, next would have been the Clint Heacock episode, and then the Keith Giles, which they both already have a lot of followers.
Correct. So they brought their own listeners. Yeah.
Yeah, and then my story came next, and then so that kind of makes sense. The top four.
Sure.
That kind of makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
But then number 5, which wasn't an interview, it's the first one that wasn't an interview, is the Afterlife.
Oh. So, okay.
Part 1, because we already did 2 parts on the Afterlife, so the part 1 was the.
I mean, that kind of makes sense, because I think we all are curious about the afterlife, right? Like, well, what do they think about that? Because I'm not sure what I think about that. I don't know what I think about it today either. Like, I probably would not echo some of the things that I said in that conversation, but
yeah. A couple of things that I've heard from friends that listen. We would share the podcast with people we love and want feedback from, and one of them said that we have a genuine rapport. We're delightful to listen to, and I think the main thing this particular person appreciated was there wasn't a tone of anger based on our upbringings and our former beliefs. I did learn that 75% of our listeners are female.
That does not surprise me.
Yeah. Between the ages of 45 and 59. 77% of them are in the US, although surprisingly, there's a percentage of them in Canada, UK, Australia, Norway, and New Zealand.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. I think one of the things I would love if I were to look back over the last year and try to evaluate something that I would have liked to have done differently, I don't think there would be anything. I think I would have done it exactly the way we did it.
I agree.
And
It's a pretty low
I love,
pressure gig that we've got. We
yeah,
don't take ourselves too seriously. Like the
right.
editing that I do is probably total shit, but we get them published and people are listening. So, I'm trying to get
Okay.
better, but
I don't think another thing that's important, and maybe you can tell in the audio quality, but this is the most low budget
absolutely.
podcast on the planet, right? Like we don't have a designated studio. Like although we do, like Carrie Jo's in her closet. I'm in my art studio, which is technically a studio, but it's not. It's a sunroom turned into a room. It's literally so low budget. We've got our laptops. We've got entry level, decent
Yeah.
microphones. You know, um, and I'm currently set up on a fold out table because my house is in shambles because it's being remodeled. So and carriage, it's just
Oh, yeah. You want to hear my setup? Okay. So my
yeah,
laptop is
please.
sitting on 2 yoga blocks, so it can be high enough that you can see me with the camera. And then my microphone is sitting on top of a conglomeration of a jewelry box, 2 books, another yoga block, and then a journal that has a strap that goes across it so it can hold my microphone in place. Like, it is so janky and hilarious, and I love it. It's so funny. Again, more reasons to not take myself too seriously because this is a joke. So funny.
Oh, it's awesome. And I think we need to continue to move forward with that kind of like presentation
Yeah.
because it keeps us lighthearted.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And that's the message that is the real tone that I want to convey to the world if anybody ever listens to this is that we're just going with the flow.
Yep. We have this
Uh,
agreement, right? That as soon as it becomes not fun or enjoyable for either one of us, we're done.
mhm.
And I love that.
Yeah.
I think we want to have fun. It shouldn't be a chore.
Hmm.
The minute it becomes a chore, I'm out and you're out. Like,
So I think to wrap up today's episode, we've been talking and noodling a
yes.
lot about what the next year is going to look like for us. This is the last episode that we're going to be playing for 2024. And yeah, we're putting a lot of thought into what next year's going to bring. And I guess we'll keep you guys posted.
Yeah. And if anybody listening has like a suggestion or, ooh, hey, I'd love it if you guys ventured into this area. I mean, throw it our way. We'll either say yes or
Mhm.
no. Those are the only options.
Mhm.
So there's no
Sure.
there's no loss in throwing it our way. We would love
Right.
other things to consider because sometimes, we're limited by our own view of things. So to get outside
Mhm.
perspectives would also be very amazing.
Oh my
You
gosh,
know how to
yes.
find us. If you're listening, you know us well enough to know how to find us.
You probably already know
Yeah,
us if you're
exactly.
listening. And if you don't, I think there's always an option to comment. Like there didn't used
Yes.
to be. We used to have comments off. Now we have comments on. And if you comment, we will see it. And if you have a question or you want to connect, mention it in the comment and we'll figure out a way to connect with you.
Yeah. We love you guys. Thanks for listening to us.
Yeah. Thank you so much for making 2024 a very interesting year. And I really actually need to thank Carrie Joe for making it so fun.
Well, likewise. I mean, that goes both
Yeah.
ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've had a blast doing this. And I'm so glad it happened.
Same girl.
So thanks for listening, guys, and happy New Year if you're listening to this in 2025, and happy holidays and all the good things to all of you. And we'll keep you posted on Heretical Hippies.
Peace out, motherfuckers. Well, friends, that wraps up this heretical episode. Thanks for listening, and be sure to rate and review our podcast and share with anyone who would be encouraged. See you next time.